So during that time, this was a closely connected family of individuals. They were not just debaters. We would hang out together, we would visit each other's families. In one of the most highly competitive PUDC finals, in my own opinion, where we had Michael McLean, and the guy was a champion for Whoopid. I think in 2012, he won Whoopid with Chris Wood. And then we also had the defending
Wow.
champions in Yesh and Dan Koda. Then we had Oliver Dixon and Nolutando Yeni in closing government and we were in closing
Yeah.
opposition. And also, when I entered the debate space, one person that I desperately wanted to meet, or two people I desperately wanted to meet because I had the legend of those people, how good they were, is Mighty Jamie and Dr. Atina Ngamso Estankopo. She's a doctor now also.
Could you capture what went down in Cape Town in 2019?
I think the last time I spoke about this moment on record was when I was applying for Korea WUDC DCA during the interview, and Dan asked me this question to say, because we met Dan and I, Dan Lahaf, he was my CA for Korea Worlds at Cape Town Worlds when he was DCA. And he asked me how I felt now since that moment, because if I'm selected, I'm going to have to maybe serve in a space that I think did a level of great injustice to us. So that was the last time I had this conversation. So just to maybe put it into perspective and just sum it up, I think Cape Town Worlds was a moment that showed the world, or the world's debating circuit, the racism that, in my opinion, had existed for a long time, but was just dismissed as maybe black or people of color wanting to play the race card. Because I think the moment that sparked the revolution, and the reason why I call this a revolution was because we were able to confront the machinery that had oppressed us for so long, was when Valerie, I think her name was Valerie. I would even be justified in forgetting the name because it's just a painful moment, when she said something about Cliff from Namibia. I don't know if she was saying Cliff was, but it was just a derogatory phrase that she used publicly in a WhatsApp group. And we had been seeing some of these things and we had been experiencing them. Like when you, in the morning, when you get into a bus, I forgot, I don't know if they're called Jamies in UCT. When you get into a bus, it takes you to the debate venue. You'll find that there would be a seat next to me, the black guy. White people will be getting
Yeah.
into the bus. They would rather
They would
stand
never
than sit
leave.
next to you. And when the roles are reversed, you find them seated and you want to sit next to them, they would tell you that someone has already booked this seat until the bus starts moving and you see that no one is coming to sit on that seat. So this was some of the covert racial acts, or just acts of injustice that they did to us. And we demanded that the Cliff incident specifically, that there should be a public apology and that the person should be kicked out of the tournament. And we were very clear on these demands as the black people and the people of color, who now realized that they were not just suffering on their own. Other people were also going through the same act of injustice that Cliff went through. And they kept on delaying because I think it was this tactic by the organizing committee and to some extent by the adjudication core itself, because they think it would just be swept under the rug, like some of the things that had been discussed but never dealt with, until it got to a point of the final day now, where we kept on communicating with them because we had set up someone who was the liaison between us and the OCOM, as well as the education core. And they just kept on delaying until we got to a point where we said, we have to take a stand. And I think part of the reason why there was a revolution was because we were in Africa. I don't think if we were in a different setting, in a different part of the world, we would have occupied the stage. So we felt like we can't be treated like this on African soil, even though some people were saying, no, Cape Town is not part of Africa. Well, some of those things is too wide, but it was still within the borders of Africa. So we allowed them to host the EFL and ESL finals because we think these are people that we closely identify with as black people and people of color because they go through the same acts of injustice as we do. Ultimately, we decided that we're going to occupy the stage just in time for the most coveted final at a world stage, which is the open category. So they came, they gave a flimsy apology, in my opinion, until we just said, no, we have had enough. There isn't going to be a final until we get a convincing apology from people who have wronged us. So we occupied the stage. The open final had to be held under, I don't know if it's a parking lot or it's an underground tunnel.
The
Yeah, it's
basement.
a basement. So I think that was just Cape Town Worlds. And I think for me, it signifies both the lowest and the highest moments of my debate career outside the podium itself. Because I think the lowest part is that we were subjected to gross injustice that wasn't dealt with. But the highest moment is that we're able to confront the forces of injustice themselves. And we're able to, even though the final went ahead, I think we got a moral victory out of that because we're able to demonstrate to them that they can never do this to us and get away with it. So that's why for me, Cape Town Worlds is such an emotional part or chapter of my debate career because I was there. And the support we were getting from people who weren't even there was so immense because they were saying that you guys are confronting some of the injustices that we have also suffered, but we never got the chance to express them. So I think Cape Town was for me the painful chapter that I would hate to forget.
I mean, my heart is heavy just even hearing this. And I was not at Cape Town. We were supposed to be, um, which is perhaps maybe another story for another day. But it sort of summarizes everything, everything that you said, and everything we have gone through, and even feeling that from people's emotions as they were being expressed online was it was immense, and it was something that deeply resonated with the continent. I think having that, and then 4 years later, or is it 3 years later, appearing in the world's finals on the grandest of stages, whilst pushing these guys to the basement is really a testament of it. And just like you said, anytime I watch that final and see the
Mm.
basement, I think
It's
it's evidence for me.
no
Yeah,
lights,
that's
no
that.
camera, no action, darkness.
Yes. Yeah, I don't want to even remember those who won. For me, it doesn't make any impact for me. It doesn't make any sense for me. But I think it really speaks to us, and also I think these are the moments which strongly put us together. And I think these are some of the things that we don't need to
Mm.
forget. We need to
Really.
realize what we are up against, and these things are not gone. Like it's not gone. These are issues which continue popping up, and we need to continue remembering them. So I'm really grateful that you decided to share on this moment.
Yeah, it was a difficult moment. But I think maybe just to add a bit to that, because I think part of the reason why I don't know if saying I have a close relation with him would be the right thing to say because I think we haven't spoken in maybe 6 months because I think he's a ghost on social media. Then I think part of the reason why now when I finally became DCA, I enjoyed working under Dan Lahave as my CA was because he was empathetic towards some of the struggles that we went through and he saw us going through. That's why part of his philosophy when now he was CA was that we needed to be tough. Even though it was a virtual world, we needed to be tough on acts of racism and acts of injustice, because he could see the level of discomfort that we were made to feel at Cape Town Worlds, and he was there to see it for himself. So I think I would maybe want to give him a special shout out, because that he's one of the, I don't know if you say, few people who took a deep interest in wanting to see how they can help the circuit to become more inclusive and ensure that we have,
Mm.
because I don't think racism will ever go away. We would be lying to ourselves. Yeah, but I think at least the cases now, maybe they've gone down. I'm not sure, but I know during our worlds, maybe, like I said, we were lucky because it was a virtual world. But I think I would like to believe the leadership of Dan would have allowed us to navigate it more strictly, even if it was an on-site tournament. So I think I would like to give him a special shout out. Yeah.
Yeah, for me that's very important because I think sometimes we we give too much props to the
Mm.
villains and we don't talk enough about people who are doing a lot. And we have a lot of these examples because all of the progress we've been able to make within the stage, talking about our kids making world's finals, wouldn't have come without the support of some very, very immense people whom we'll get to mention their names. Let's talk about PAUDC once again, but this time not with you as a speaker, but with you as a CA. And
I was just hoping and praying that we don't get to that part, but here we are. So just,
oh, I saved the best
yeah,
moments.
yeah,
Let's talk about PAUDC. Is it
yes,
2022?
2022, yes,
Or
yes,
let's talk about PAUDC 2022. If my mind serves me very well, you were CA.
yes, yeah. In fact, I was co-CA. I was co-CA to Nemo and Erasmus. They were my other co-CAs.
Oh,
Then my
yeah.
DCAs were Uma, Davida, Andrews, and Chantel. So I think for me,
Mm.
that PUDC, the reason why I took up the offer when it came was because I think it was the missing piece in my legacy, and it's something that I've been so obsessed with over the years, that I thought I was competent enough, I was maybe qualified enough to see a PUDC, but I never got the chance, let alone to even be DCA. So you can imagine. So that's why for me it was supposed to be a special moment in my career, because I'd wanted to see a PUDC for a really long time. So I think that PUDC, where do I start? Because I think everything else, in my opinion, uh, was okay, except for the logistics. And I'm not sure if I really want to go into it. No.
No, Boemo, it's just you and I over here. I think if we speak about lessons to be learned, we need to learn all lessons. We need to be humble enough to learn every piece of it because that's the only way we get better. And I think this is one of the best platforms to share it. And I think you are big enough within the
You see,
circuit.
for you, it's a bit convenient because you're the one asking the questions, and I'm the one responding to them, and Andrew is in the background. But both of you guys were there with me every step of the way. So I think maybe let me start off with what I think went well with regards to the tournament. I think it was the first on-site PUDC post COVID-19. So I think in terms of the attendance, I wouldn't be too skeptical about it, because I think people got comfortable debating over Zoom and over Discord during the lockdown period. And I think one of the issues that has plagued our circuit for so long, which is lack of access to funding, plays a key role in whether or not people do attend. So I think the numbers for me were good enough for PUDC, and were good enough for a PUDC that would act or serve as my legacy. The second one, I think I would say, was the team that I worked with in terms of the adjudication core. I think it's one of the PUDC adjudication course that would rank amongst the most exceptional, in my opinion, because I think the array of skill set that we had from the core CAs to the DCAs was one that I think was good enough for a PUDC, and a PUDC of even a bigger size than the one that we had. So I think those were the two key positives that I took from there. Then the third one would be maybe in terms of lodging and accommodation. I think the organizing committee did a really good job because I think the accommodation was well and all of those things. So now we have to get to the negatives because I think
Yeah,
that's where you want to push me toward.
that's the part we are
You
concerned
can get the
about.
lessons from. One, I think, and I think we did discuss this at length with Masharia, who was the convener at the time, that the inability for the organizing committee, uh, regardless of whatever reasons or circumstances were surrounding all of the people who were part of my team, not having your full team there on site, I think it's something that puts a lot of pressure or immense pressure on you as the CA as well as the other members of your team that you have. Because I think PUDC, you need to go through a lot of feedback, you need to go through a lot of organizing and moving parts. So I think not having the full team there for me was a downside. So I think the reasons for the entire team not being there are debatable. I would argue one side, the organizing committee would argue the other side. So I think not having you, Uma, Andrews, as well as Davida on site really was a dent on the quality of the tournament itself. Even though we made up for that downside by consistently being engaged with each other, because I don't remember having so many calls in one day in my life because we need to get through a lot of things. And then I think the second one would be maybe in terms of the rooms that we had, because there were points where we would want to debate in a room, you'd find that there are exams going on in that room. So I think that was the second downside of the organizing or the organization of the tournament, in my opinion, that I think, because I remember I had to run, I'd never run so much in my life at a tournament. So I'd be moving from uh, one building to the other because people were texting in the group that we don't have a room to debate. So I need to go there, make sure that people do have a room. The other time it would be Chantel should be running around. The other time it would be Nemo. So I think that lack of coordination to ensure that enough rooms, because I think it wasn't as big a PUDC as the PUDC in 2014, where I think we had over 500 people. You can imagine the number of rooms that we needed for that PUDC. So it would have been just easier to maybe get things sorted out. So that's the second part. And then I think the other part, which I think this one was just politics, and I think I'm just gonna be frank and just speak the truth, because I think if you are speaking the truth, you don't need to. What do they say? They say speak the truth even if your voice shakes. So that's what I'm gonna
Yeah.
do now. So you remember, because of the size of the tournament, as the adjudication call, we decided that we're gonna break to quarterfinals because we didn't want to compromise on the quality or the integrity of the tournament, because I think that was our core argument
Yeah.
as the adjudication call. So we did inform Masharia and the organizing committee, and I think he was the one who was taking lead on this issue, that we don't think the numbers are such that we can break to quarterfinals. Because breaking to quarterfinals, I think if my memory serves me right, we're going to break, is it 60% of the entire tournament? So
Yes, it was
yes,
more.
more or
Yes.
less 60% of the entire tournament. So that takes away, as
Yes.
people who have won PUDC before, who had to grind to get through so many rounds, to get through so many people to win PUDC. Now imagine you break 60% of the tournament. So he had his reasons that we thought were compelling. So we could have reached an amicable solution if maybe Masharia was uh, accommodative enough, because it's not like we just dropped a bombshell on him and said, "Oh no, dude, we're breaking to chorus." We did inform him prior to that, But his reasons were that the invitations had indicated to the participants that we're going to break to octo finals rather. But I think if we could have had meaningful dialogue, the issue could have been resolved in a more amicable way. So now, when we had announced at dinner time that we're going to break to quarters, I remember I had just had the conversation with you and Andrews, and I think Nemo was with me when we were on that phone call. I start hearing chatter that I'm going to be summoned to council. You know, this all-powerful, all-mighty body that
Wait,
exists
you Boemo legend.
Imagine, and you know,
Yeah,
that was my first time
legend.
attending council. Because I've
Yeah.
never liked council because of the politics that play out there that delay progress.
Mm.
So I remember now I text you guys in the group, guys, we've been summoned, not just me. I'm there, yes, but my entire team has been summoned to council. So fast forward, we get to council. You know, when you're about to, I don't know if it, when you're about to be, I don't know if you say to be prosecuted. You know, people were
Yes.
gathered around there, and there was just this one chair that was set aside at the head of the table that I think was waiting for me. Because I think the convener for Togo PUDC, what's his name again? I'm really bad with names.
Uh,
Yes, Latif.
Latif.
I think Latif was the one who was chairing the meeting. So these guys had pre-gamed the thing, Sharia, the other forces behind the scenes that were influencing this. Because I don't think their objection was based purely on merit. I think it was just politics and them trying to demonstrate to us that they have power or they can use power or they're power brokers in council. Fast forward, we get there, I sit on the seat. I remember Nemo was streaming this live for you guys so that you can see and you can also hear. So when we get there now, these guys, you know, I think the one thing that pissed me off the most, and I rarely use that word, but I'm going to use it now. That pissed me off the most was, I don't know, what's his name? The tall guy from Kenya. I don't know why I'm forgetting his name. He was like, I'll remember his name. And if I do before we,
I don't remember I don't remember him.
I don't know why I'm also forgetting his name because
Is it Felix?
Felix, I think. Felix Nyabuto, yes. History needs to remember
Yeah.
such names. He says something, not to the lines of something when he says that CAP is just an extension of OCOM. They can never have power that supersedes that of OCOM. In fact, CAP should be made to feel powerless. You know, those words, sometimes I play them at the top of my head.
Mm.
I was like, guys, how did we get here to a point where now we've been friends, we've been coding, even despite the pitfalls of the tournament? Because I'd overlooked some of the things that pissed me off, like when there was no special mention of the adjudication core at the opening ceremony. When has that ever happened? Because we've been working also behind the scenes to ensure that the tournament becomes a success. But
Yeah.
we let that slide, and I think we're not going to let that one slide. That's why after the deliberations were on and all of those things, I was put on trial. I argued why the merits of our case. I just told them, this is not just my position, it's the position of my team. The only break that is going to be announced is the quarterfinal break. No other break is going to be announced. So if you guys have your own break, fair, all is well and good, you can announce that break. And then I immediately instructed Lucian and Mason and the other tab guys to take the tab offline. Because now we're at war with people who wanted to disrespect us to a point where they said, we are not useful, we are meaningless, we don't have any power. You know, we
Mm.
never wanted to show them that we had power, because when you have power, there's no need for you to try and demonstrate that you do have power. But I think we needed to show them that we had power. And part of the reason why I think we did that was so that it can act as precedence. Adjudication courts
Mm.
are disrespected, and they never have a way of showing people that they have power, they can use that power. I think taking off the tab off line was our way of demonstrating that we hold all the cards.
Yeah.
So I think that for me was the most emotional moment, even though afterwards I think Macharia did text me at first. I didn't respond because I think I was still boiling, because this is someone that I respected ever since I heard his name,
Mm.
because he's an excellent debater. I debated against him at some point, and it was my first time meeting him in person. But I did have a discussion with him afterwards that, no, I think what you did was not right. And he also apologized and said, no, I think we could have found a way to deal with this issue without
Mm.
taking it to council and maybe tarnishing the name of the adjudication corps and the good work that they put in. Because we did put in a lot of good work. We should.
Yeah, you must have been very well rewarded then,
Yes.
right?
I remember there was that issue also that we needed to be rewarded. And I think it was a fair argument to say, but I think once I got to PUDC and I was on site, I did realize that there was no way we could have been rewarded, honestly speaking, because I think there wasn't enough funds. And I think at least one thing that I think I need to commend him on, he was at least transparent on that part. He did tell me part of the
Mm.
reason why your team didn't
Mm.
come was because of one, two, three. And part of the reason why we can't give you guys a remuneration that we had agreed upon maybe a year back or 2 years back when we started this journey together is because there is no money. So I
Mm.
think he was honest enough to tell me that. So I think that's why I would meet him one day, and I hope we'd still be friends, because I think for me, I don't take some of these things personal. They're just an
Yeah.
episode in a long journey. So once it's done, I get over it, move on to the next chapter. So I think that's in
Yeah.
essence.
Yeah, and I think it's very important. It's commendable that you didn't keep a bad taste of this. And I think we are all friends within the circuit. We all need to work together. And I think it was also very commendable of him to, like you said, apologize and try to seek to resolve things amicably. I think it was very, very commendable. I also understand that as Ocom, especially in that moment, there was a lot of pressures, but I'm glad it is a teachable
Mm.
moment. And now that you've said it, I think you've saved a lot of CAs. So at least that's one benefit in that. Well, so I mean, we've been having such an interesting discussion so far. We'll be looking to round up very
Mm.
soon, but we want to do so on a positive note. I think we've gone across your journey in different phases. What would you say is the most memorable thing or the biggest thing that debate has given you that you would like to share with the world on a positive note?
You know, trying to capture 10 plus years in just one line is a difficult.
Mhm.
But I think for me, winning and having trophies and titles, it's something that you aspire for when you are maybe new to the circuit. But once you do it over time and you recognize that, yes, these are just things that validates that I might be good and I do get rewarded for those. I think for me, my most memorable moments aren't necessarily about the wins on the podium. I would be lying if I said that. Yes, I think they do give you recognition. People maybe to a certain extent revere to you, or they revere you and they hold your name in high regard. But I think for me, the friendships that I've made along the way, and I've made a lot of friendships, I think those all of the friendships from Namibia to South Africa to Zimbabwe to Rwanda to Kenya to Malaysia, I think they are the ones that once I've exited the circuit, I would always take with me and cherish, because I think they do symbolize the impact outside the podium that debate can have in our lives. And once you transition from debate into the real world, you keep some of those friendships, and they are friendships that you can rely on, maybe in your time of need, or maybe in your maybe other proud moments in life outside debate. So that's why I keep in constant communication with some of the people I've met, even in 2012 when I first got to debate. So I think the friendships for me and the value you get out of those friendships, they are the ones that transcend beyond the trophies. Because I think, like, I don't know, there's this song that I usually play in my head, "History" by Jay-Z. I think there's a verse or a chorus. I'm not sure you are the rapper. You correct me if it's a verse or a chorus where he says, "It's not about the money. You can't take it when you leave. It's not about the fame that dies within weeks. I want to be remembered long after I'm gone, long after something along those things." So I think for me, the
Yeah.
memory that I cherish the most is the friendships, because you'd meet someone like I met Nzube at an airport in Kigali last,
Oh wow.
and he's the one who recognized me first because I was still in line trying to check in. So you see, that's the value that you get outside the debate podium, that you can meet someone. And coincidentally, we were both going to Kenya, and he ended up attending PUDC. And he was also one of the people that we relied on the ground because we had given him cap status. So you see, if I didn't value those friendships, I would have just seen him as
Mm.
another guy that I met in my life. But because of debate, I was
Yes.
able to cross paths with him, and we were able to recognize each other at an airport and make or reconnect in terms of the friendships. So for me, if you are young, if you're new to the debate circuit, yes, the trophies are nice, but what, you know, I still have my PUDC trophy. I rarely even look at it anymore because it's just
Mhm.
there. I can't talk to it. I can't tell it of my problems, my memories. But if I call Erasmus, I know I can talk to him. If I call Andrews, I know I can talk to him. So the memories for me, the friendships, those are the things that I value the most out of my debate journey.
Wow, that's incredible. And I mean, when you say it now, the new generation thinks you are just waxing philosophical. Um, but yeah, but I think I value. I mean, this is a product of some of the things you said. It's just the ability to be able to call you, because I just sent you a message. I think we had a date scheduled, we had to reschedule it, and it's like I'll be there. We would have this
Exactly.
conversation, and these are the things that debate gives to us, because like we also know the treasures that we have in ourselves. We know how good each and every
Mm.
one of us is. Finally, before I let you go, I like to give, I know you don't like to talk about yourself, but I think it will be good if there's something that you're working on, there's something that you like to put out there for people to know, enjoy, just learn about, buy from you, just anything. I think we'll just like to know what's going on in your life, what you're working on, anything to expect from you.
Okay, I think in terms of work right now, I'm a marketing and accounts manager at Visual Sprout. I'm still at the office even this late hour. We are a branding and marketing company that serves mostly small, medium enterprises. So I think for me, that's where my passion lies, connecting with small, medium enterprises. And secondly, I'm still a student. So from here on, I have to hit the books because we are closing off the term next week. I have assignments to complete. And then I think maybe the one thing that I'm working on with two guys that I met at the African Leadership University in Hakim and Stanley. Hakim is from Uganda and Stanley is from Nairobi, Kenya. And I think now we're at a stage where we can maybe just talk about it publicly because it's something that maybe we are closer to getting it to the market if we can get the funding. We are developing a device called MariTest. This is an automated and bloodless malaria testing device that relies on machine
Mm,
learning or artificial intelligence to give a diagnosis in under 2 minutes. So that's the next big thing that I am working on alongside Hakim and Stanley. And we do have a prototype that we've already developed. So the only thing that we are now trying to get to is the funding because that's the most important thing.
mhm,
So I think part of the reason why I think maybe I can share this is because we believe as
mm,
founders that it can revolutionize the fight against malaria because it's blood test and it gives
Yeah.
a diagnosis in under 2 minutes. It's a device that can be used by
Mm.
multiple people. So I think in a continent where almost 650 million cases around the world are reported on an annual basis of malaria, and with almost 95% of people out of those numbers losing their lives because they can't get access to an early diagnosis, I think is something that people can be on the lookout for from me and my team in the future. And we think this is something that could be, well, for me personally, could be my legacy outside debate and maybe in the corporate
Mm.
world. Yes. So I think that's just me. Yeah.
No, that's huge. That's huge. And the reason I like to do this part is also as inspiration for, because when you begin debate, some people want to balance. They're like, oh, I don't want to lose focus or something like that. So when you speak about things like this, it just tells people that, look, if you want to do great things, these are the kind of things which you should be getting into in terms of debates, in terms of putting yourself out there, and in terms of having the power to advocate. All right. Thank you so much, Boemo. I can genuinely say this is a conversation that I have enjoyed, and I'm very, very pleased to have had you on the Shaft podcast. I think it is an honor for us to speak to you, legend. And that's how I call you, legend. Yeah, and your humility and being an example to the generation ahead is something that we look forward to. And we just hope that your continued presence within the circuit to continue to inspire people and to give people a path would continue, and all of us would benefit from it. Thank you so
Yeah, I
much.
think the pleasure was mine. I think, like I said at the beginning, I think part of the reason why I want to be part of something like this is because of the untold stories that people can draw inspiration from, draw lessons from. So it's just a pity that we don't have all the time in the world, because I think we could
Yes.
have went on. But I think I've also just
Yes.
enjoyed the conversation, and I think some of the issues that we discussed acted as a reflection on uh, on my life and my journey throughout debate. And I think some of the memories I had even forgotten about them. So I'm feeling nostalgic right now of this conversation, because it gave me the opportunity to finally open up about some of the things that I've enjoyed, that I've
Mm.
disliked throughout the debate conversation. So I think this platform is definitely something that we need, and props to you guys for setting it up. And I hope it grows and people do watch and do enjoy the content itself, because I think it's amazing for the African debate community. So thank you for having me, and yeah.
Thank you too. Thank you too. Thank you so much.